I've been thinking a bit about this idea of white supremacy, which is one of the diseases of the mind, which we are focusing on in the last 12 months. This idea is like a virus. It's like a polio virus or a smallpox virus, that once it gets into your mind, it begins to build its own story and to find proof for itself and to grow. And it creates a disease in the mind which can be transmitted to another person. And many times it is transmitted via personal contact, but lately it's been done a lot through social media and misinformation that's been going out there. It is possible to have many things that act like viruses. They call it going viral. When they talk about a lie going out on the internet, it becomes something that gets out there, and then that because of its salacious nature, we are attracted to it, and in so being attracted to it, then it begins to replicate and go out into the world at large. This is not only a social media phenomenon, but is a phenomenon of society in general, that we are susceptible to bad ideas, just like bad diseases. Some things, some ideas that pass through the community are less dangerous than others, and some are quite dangerous and difficult to deal with. And kind of corralling that mental disease is no easier than corralling smallpox or polio. So I'd like to use some of the unity ideas as a way of inoculating or telling us how we might inoculate ourselves against the diseases of the mind. Because those diseases, once they're in us, are more difficult to get rid of. I must say, it's better to have a way of protecting yourself against it. And it turns out, if we use the analogy of the vaccine, one thing we need to know is that the vaccine works by introducing something into your body which the body recognizes as dangerous or a pathogen. And once the pathogen is recognized by the body itself initiates a defense mechanism, which we call to become immune. And that immunology this immune system that kicks in, as that kicks in, it defeats a stronger dose of it. So if you think about it, one of the first diseases we have, one of the first viruses that almost every human being has, is that we live in a world of lack and separation. It's a mental disease. We begin to identify not with the grandness of who we are, but with this small, personal, body-centric self. That is the body or the mind. This small self becomes who we believe we are, and we often totally forget the other aspect of ourself, the divine aspect of ourself. And so the disease has taken over. The disease of separateness and lack has infected the mind and taken over. And we must work to get rid of it. Start how we usually work at this, is we begin to work on forgiveness and changing our minds, one idea at a time. And that becomes the cure. If we could get out ahead of it, if we get out before we're infected, if, let's say, our parents told us at the very beginning that some people think that other people are less than them, but we don't. We know that all people are created equal. If you were inoculated by that knowledge that some people may think the wrong thing, but you don't have to, then you can start to build your immune system toward that. But to remedy the disease that is already here, whatever disease it is of somebody being separate from us and harming us or wishing us harm, this is done through forgiveness. Not the forgiveness that most people talk about, but the forgiveness that Charles Fillmore and the Course in Miracles talks about. This forgiveness is a very powerful way of dealing with most viruses of the mind, which is the change from looking at the sin, so-called sin, of what they might do to us, and looking beyond that to who they really are and who we really are at the same time. By doing this practice, we're looking beyond our own smallness, looking toward who they really are, and seeing them as perfect anyway, and discounting our observations of them doing us wrong or them being wrong. We see them not as the small self sees it, but as God sees them not as separate from God, but as part of God, sees them not as their bodies, but instead as their spirits. And when we do that, the change of mind that we have, the change of attitude toward them, begins to crumble that virus thought into powder. And ultimately, if we keep it up, it will blow away. The Course in Miracles and the writings of Charles Fillmore, both of those tell us that essentially the healing, the spiritual healing, the healing of the mind is from changing the mind, from seeing error to seeing perfection, from seeing material to seeing in a spiritual way. Identify with the transcendent aspect of yourself, not with the personal. Identify with your spirit, not with your body, mind, nature. And that is transcending the state of sin and moving into the kingdom of heaven. It is moving from being caught in a viral predicament and moving into mental health. Heaven on earth occurs when, like the smallpox virus was defeated completely worldwide, when the world makes a change of seeing others as bodies and minds and begins to see them as spirits, and we see them as holy, when the whole world does that, just like the smallpox scourge upon the earth, the scourge of separateness can be defeated in the same way. Not easy, but possible.